So it's sort of like heaped up place of offerings, but it also represents the 5 elements, are the actual what the heap is made out of. So the 5 elements are earth, water, fire, wind, and space. So they're in the stupa. The square part of the stupa is this way. Are you filming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The square part of the stupa, the base, the white base is earth, and then the round middle building part of the building is the element of water, and then the red and gold spire is the element of fire, and the wind is represented by the parasol that's hanging down, and space is represented by the sun, moon, and jewel at the very top.
Now, is that design something you would find throughout, like if we were to go visit a stupa somewhere else, or is that your guys' interpretation of a design?
No, it's based on a Tibetan stupa. So all stupas are somewhat similar. So you have pagodas and you have chortens in different places. They look slightly different, but the basic elements are the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're getting weather changes. I'm going to have to throw my glasses
So
on.
this is sort of a progression of your life and the moment of death. So when you're young, you have a facility with the earth. You know, like a small child will fall down and get up and then laugh. And as you go older, you lose that. And when you're young, the most important things are the physical things in the world. You know, what kind of tennis shoes you're wearing or something like that. Then your emotional body, the round water body, sort of that system becomes more important. And as you get closer to death, then sort of the base emotions, like just really basic things about love, or you know, conflictions you sort of let go of. And then you just have the breath, which is the wind at the very top. And then at the moment of death, so all this sort of dualism, the most dualistic element being the earth, all this sort of duality merge into non-duality. And then you go into this sort of consciousness or element, which is all you have left. So that's sort of one of the reasons meditation's a good thing to be curious about, is because it's sort of a practice for death. Because, you know, all these other things start falling away through your life. And you end up with your mind or your heart, your open heart, and that is what you're left with in any case. You know, like if somebody dies, you know, you're thinking about it before they die. You think about your mustard on your hot dog, and then they die, and all of a sudden everything is opened. Everything is blank. Everything is sort of, you're open to the universe. So that's sort of that moment that always arises that you want to start becoming aware of and not being afraid of. Because at the time of death, the same thing's going to happen. You're going to be groundless. You know, you're no longer going to have a body. You're going to be completely groundless. You're sort of, you know, your attachments are going to be gone.
Okay.
So then you're left with your mind essence, or your open-heartedness, and so that's same thing in every moment. This happens. You know, is that you have non-thought, and then you have a thought. And then you progress from there. So the same thing, like when you wake up in the morning, you sort of start at that non-thought. You wake up in the morning, especially if you're in somebody else's bed, and you open one eye, or you're in a hotel or something like that, you open one eye and you think, where am I? Who am I? What day is this? And you start cognizing your whole world. You know, you start there, you start right underneath the crescent moon, sort of that point of non-duality, and then you start breathing. You realize you're breathing, you're alive. You have your base emotion, is this safe or unsafe area? You feel, okay, is this safe? And then you have your emotional body, and then you think, that round part of the stupa, and you think, oh, yeah, this is fine, it's Monday, I got to be at work in a half hour, I'm late, I got to get up, shave. You go down, you get very much into the earth section, the square section, and you're having your breakfast and things, and all of a sudden your world is completely solid again. You don't remember that it came from this open space. But every moment's the same thing. Before you think of something, there you have open space, and then you start thinking about something, and then you start a whole scenario.
Interesting. So like a cyclical reconstruction.
Always, yeah, every moment, life and death that happens, and in the dream state, it's also a good example.
So does that play into like a reincarnation type of idea, or
Well,
is that even specific to your type of Buddhism?
yeah, we don't.
or-
We have this real, because we don't believe in itself,
Okay.
and so it's hard to say. Well, yes, yourself reincarnates.
Mhm.
What you might say is what happens is that propensities recreate themselves. So, as example, like if I'm a real angry person today and I don't deal with my anger today, tomorrow I'll probably be an angry person again.
Okay.
Right. So there's a propensity that continues.
Okay.
Yeah.
My uncle considers himself a bit of a Buddhist, and he believes, he's told me once or twice, that he doesn't believe there's any kind of separation between me and, like, say, a rock.
That's right.
And so is that, I guess, essentially what...
Yeah, that's
What's going on?
non-duality.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's great, like deep ecology too, because there's no difference between you and the rock, or the earth, or the sky, or the wind, or the water. So there's a complete, everything is interconnected that way.
And kind of an atomic level.
Yeah, yeah,
All kinds of levels.
yeah.
Okay.
And which is not to deny that experientially we, have a sense of self. I have a sense of who I am and what my stuff is and what I do. So that's not denied, but it's contextualized within the understanding of the interconnectivity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually we think our thoughts are who we are. Right, but
Right. I think therefore I am.
right.
We have an identity like I'm a liberal, or I'm an atheist, or,
Yeah, you
or
have
I'm
this whole-
a male, or something like
Right,
that.
right. But it's not, we don't put it in the context that we have this vast open wisdom, mind, open-heartedness. That's where everything arises out of, so there's these little, like, waves on an ocean, right? So we see the waves and we think that's the important thing, but we don't have a sense, sometimes we don't have the depth
Okay.
of the ocean.
Interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
What you find is you start to meditate. Eventually, often, possibly, because there's no guarantees. Or maybe I should say what I've found is that I start to see the ways in which I support that construct of who I am, and the problematic aspect of it, which is defending it against things that I feel threaten my sense of self, trying to seduce in things that I want to support my sense of self, or stuff that's too overwhelming, I just ignore it, try to bypass it or pretend it's not there. So there's all this emotional turmoil that's used to support this artificial construct, which is myself, as a separate ongoing entity. So it's an interesting balance to not deny the importance and the vividness and the utility of our experience, but at the same time to not buy into and generate all the conflicting emotions in order to support it. So with the space that arises from meditation and contemplation and studying, the mind and that kind of thing, you start to hopefully get a little bit of space to be able to let go of some of those things. You see them arise, and you go, oh yeah, that again, that again.
Okay. Very interesting. Very cool.
So you can probably never get rid of that part of you, or that voice that constructs this kind of meaning, or this identity, or this association with different groups or countries or whatever.
It's a pretty interesting question, and I think to really talk about it, some things take a fair bit of study, meditation, and contemplation, because it's complex stuff. The simplicity side of it is that on some level it never goes away, because as we said before, there's wisdom. So for example, if you've got a puppy that's been beaten, it snarls to defend itself. So the snarling could be considered, if it's taken out of that context, to be confusion. But there's a lot of intelligence there because he's defending himself. And the same with us. Because we're not separate from our context, the world we live in, and because we have all these things that are painful, the world is a pretty painful place in some ways. The confusion that arises there's wisdom.
And there's always things arising. You know, there's always irritations arising, so you're always going to have a reaction. There's always, you know, a rub. It's how you deal with that rub is what the difference is.
Yeah, you don't want to separate from the world. So you're always going to be experiencing pain because there's some horrible things happening out there. You know, some stuff that's really sad and worse. So to try to protect yourself from that would be the only way to not experience pain and suffering and confusion.
So as an example, like if you look at the stupa, it has 4 gates on it. You can see 3 of them, and the one on this face is the main color is blue. And the blue represents clarity, or a mirror-like wisdom. And what that degrades into is anger or aggression. And so an example of how that happens is that, say you're driving down I-25 and somebody, it's early in the morning going home, and somebody pulls in front of you and beeps their horn and gives you the finger, and all of a sudden you go from this sort of sleepy person who's daydreaming and thinking in just little bob thoughts. All of a sudden you're completely awake. You're checking your mirrors, all your sense perceptions are awake because you might be endangering somebody else. And so all of a sudden that person's completely, you know, liberated you from your confusion for a split second. As soon as you decide, oh, I'm safe, this is fine, then you have 2 choices. You can stay in that open state of mind, or what I would do is say, fuck you, get off my road, I pay my goddamn taxes, and you know, and so there's that one moment that, okay, the world has woken you up, like this breeze has woken you up, and can you stay in that, can you just relax in that space, really genuinely just relax in that space and appreciate it? Or you need to shut down, and you need to say, oh, this wind is drying off my lips, it's irritating, I need some chapstick, I need this, I need that, or get pissed off at the guy who's, you know, turned off and he's in Loveland already, and he's happy, but you're still pissed off, and you're still angry, and you're driving, and so either you get angry right away, or you embody it, and then the next time you pull up to your house or where you're working, first person you see, you're angry at them. They don't know why. So you just sort of feed yourself that rat poison, you know. And you think that rat, you know, you think that anger, feeding that anger, that loop, is hurting that person who went to Loveland, but they're happy in Loveland, and you're just doing this to yourself. So you're spinning your own wheels and creating your own distress. But the main point is that it's that one moment, and that moment happens all the time, is that you decide what you want to do with your experience. Mm-hmm. Do you want to use it as a possibility of waking up, or a possibility of going into your own distress? So you create your world in a way. Interesting. Yeah.
At the same time, it's kind of hard, I think. Maybe if you get really angry, then, you know, this adrenaline starts pumping, you know, and you can't control your, you know, your what the hormones that your
right.
glands produce, and so you have all this adrenaline going, and, you know, I guess you can choose to kind of ignore it, or you can choose to.
Yeah, but that adrenaline is like what same thing as you're playing basketball or something like that. You know, you have all that energy, and so everything's there. You know, so it depends on how. Yeah, you can. It's true. It's very true. Yeah.
And
it's like lust too.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Lust, yeah, ignorance, like just backing off and just like trying to ignore the whole world. It's all those things are. But being able to, that's why, you know, if you meditate, you see that happening in your mind over and over again. That sort of thing, that emotion, that adrenaline, and you just sort of get used to like not buying into it, not feeding it. That's the main thing, is not to feed it. Let it arise, but you don't feed it, you know.
I can dig it.
So some of the things that are important in terms of that is meditation, where you're developing a strong, stable, vivid, clear relationship with experience. You can actually so step by step, you start to set the situation so that when that moment of choice arises, you can make the right choice. You can make the choice that is more beneficial. Right and wrong is kind of slightly artificial concepts, but you can make choices that are more beneficial to yourself,
To your well-being.
to the world.
Yeah.
Can we start walking? And
yeah,
I
just
noticed
so
the
that we can
wind
get
is.
somewhere that's not quite as windy.